Good morning. Months ago, I asked Reverend Eric for a Sunday sermon slot for the Green Sanctuary team so that we could have your undivided attention while we talked about the Green Sanctuary program. Our goal was to bring it to you during Sunday service to raise awareness of the program, generate support and participation. The team pulled together the elements of the service, and I completed the sermon that spelled out the phases of the program, the work that had been accomplished, and the work that remained, along with the ways the congregation may engage. We were ready to go, sermon complete, feeling accomplished, ahead of the game, leg up, until actually a few days ago, when I received a surprise announcement via email from the Green Sanctuary team at the UUA. They were announcing a new revised program, iteration number 7, and there would be a webinar. I quickly jumped on the Green Sanctuary website for a bit of research and found a few pages describing a program that looked quite different from the one we're currently working on. Feeling a bit trepidatious but curious, I attended the webinar during which the staff and team announced a complete design of the Green Sanctuary program. This new program, entitled Green Sanctuary 2020, A Faithful Response to Climate Urgency, or GS 2020 for short, is a complete refocus, whereas the previous program asked us to assess the congregation's involvement in environment, sustainability, and climate issues, and to complete 12 projects that address those areas across congregational life. GS 2020 is focused like a laser beam exclusively on climate change and environmental justice. The intention of GS 2020 is to build a UU movement of impactful action aimed at mitigating climate change, building resilience to climate change effects, and collaborating with frontline communities to fight environmental injustice. This redesign isn't just tweaks. This new iteration completely changes the focus and the goals of the program. So let me go back to the beginning a little and give some history. Most of us probably know that back in the 1980s, NASA scientists modeled out just how quickly the Earth was warming. Armed with these models, they warned Congress of the looming crisis and pleaded for steps to be taken to shift course and avert disaster. At the same time, Exxon, the largest oil company in the world, had scientists build similar models. They came to the same conclusion as their colleagues at NASA, but their findings led the company to, in the words of Bill McKibben of 350.org, began spending money to build an architecture of deceit and denial and disinformation that for the next 30 years kept us locked in a pointless debate about whether global warming was real, a question that turned out to be the most consequential lie in human history. During this period, a budding movement to cut emissions also began. And it was around the same time, later in the 1980s, that impassioned Unitarian Universalists, like all of us here today, gathered together and said to each other, we have to respond to this global warming threat. We have to do something, they said, as UUs, about environmental issues, about global warming, about creating ecological justice. And we have to do it in our faith community and in our communities where we live and work. It was from these conversations that emerged the UUA's Green Sanctuary program. Fast forward 30 plus years, the petroleum industry's strategic deception campaign was successful, which is why we now stand at the brink of the highest global temperatures considered safe. Just what it will mean to cross that line remains an ongoing question for scientists, but we've already started to experience the change. Today, extreme weather events are happening at increased rates. We are connecting the dots between the growing intensity of the hurricanes each summer and the warming of our oceans. Our West Coast is burning, and we hear dire warnings of future and enduring droughts. This is an urgent call for action, and we need to respond now. Modeled after the Welcoming Congregation program that invites congregations to take specific steps to welcome people of all sexual orientations, Green Sanctuary is an accreditation program that guides congregations to take action on climate issues and environmental justice. Last year, as we restructured our approach to social justice and looked to launch a new climate initiative, a group of us saw that Green Sanctuary program provided a path for the whole congregation to work together on climate toward a more sustainable and just world. The program guides the congregation through the steps of awareness, understanding, commitment, and climate action. Working under the umbrella of the Climate Social Justice Initiative, the Green Sanctuary team came together in March this year, just as the pandemic was arriving. So COVID kept us separate, socially distant, but the team managed to work on this important endeavor, gathering information around our environmental practices in congregational life, and researched Massachusetts communities most in peril of environmental injustice. We will show a short video on environmental justice today following the sermon. Simultaneous to the work of the GS team, an energy task force conducted an energy audit, and thanks to the efforts of Ray Angelone and Barbara Evans and the grants procured, we've been implementing the main recommendations, which include installing more efficient lighting and insulation. Once these efficiencies are complete in 2021, our building carbon footprint will be reduced by 10.5 metric tons to 14 metric tons. This lowered number is aided, of course, by our solar panels. But we have accomplished a good deal of work so far, and the actions that we have taken align squarely with the requirements of GS 2020 program. This, along with the urgency to mitigate climate change, compels us to unite behind and work the GS 2020 program. What will that work look like? Addressing climate change requires dramatic changes to how much CO2 we emit to power our homes, factories, communities, build our cities, feed ourselves, and move around. There isn't a silver bullet or a single pressure point to address the climate change, but according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, to accomplish a livable and just world, we need to reduce global net carbon emissions by 45% by the year 2030 and net zero by the year 2050. This is what the UUA and Green Sanctuary 2020 asks us to do. So you might be saying, what? GS 2020 is asking us UUs to mitigate and reduce our carbon output by 45% in 2030 and near zero by 2050? That's a big ask. How do we do that? This work will be difficult and challenging, but it will be guided and supported by the GS 2020 program and the network of UU congregations involved in this movement. To accomplish it, we must make a paradigm shift. We must redefine our habits, develop new consumption patterns, and establish new priorities. It means changing our behavior by becoming keenly aware of our choices and the impact that our choices have on the earth. This approach engages us all, individuals, families, congregations, and communities. This urgent call is going out to each and every one of us because we are all interconnected and share this common destiny. So today I'm asking you, every person in the congregation, to commit to respond to this call to action. It is the work of our lifetime. The work offers us an opportunity filled with rational hope and a vision for a better future. In your chat box is a link to resource documents on sustainability and mitigation. We will be sending out an email for a meeting next week along with Zoom links so that we can get together and discuss the program and our next step. So let us take a breath and process all of this. It's a lot to take in. Take some time to review the resource materials, come to the meeting of the Green Sanctuary Committee, and find out what the next steps are. We are in this together. We are interconnected, and we share this common destiny. Before we go, I want to leave you with a task that's perhaps the single most important thing that you can do today about climate change, and that is to talk about it. Climate change is transforming the world, so why aren't we talking about it? If we do not have these conversations, how do we expect the world to change? Climate scientist Katharine Hayhoe gave a TED Talk last year about the idea that coping with climate change begins with talking about it with family, friends, neighbors, and communities. She says the most important thing to do is talk about it from your heart. Talk about why it matters to you, and begin with genuinely shared values. We need to talk about why climate change matters to us in the places where we live, thinking about everything from the air we breathe to the food we eat. If we do that, we'll find a way to get past the political polarization linked to the phrase climate change. When people talk about the climate crisis with people they know, they're more likely to learn key facts. Most importantly, they're likely to learn about the clear scientific consensus on climate change and begin to believe that it is happening. Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old climate activist, says, "I remember thinking that it was very strange that humans, who were animal species among others, could be capable of changing the Earth's climate. Because if it were, and if it were really happening, we wouldn't be talking about anything else. As soon as you'd turn on the TV, everything else would be about that. Headlines, radios, newspapers. You would never read or hear about anything else, as if there was a world war going on. But no one talked about it. If burning fossil fuels were so bad that it threatened our very existence, why aren't we talking about it?" Bill McKibben once was asked, "What is the best thing that one person can do?" His reply was, "Don't be one person. Join a movement." The Green Sanctuary program offers us a platform for being part of a unique UU movement to create climate justice and a way to amplify the efforts of UU congregations to develop and achieve a more sustainable future. Green Sanctuary is a collective effort, not a personal effort of a few most committed environmentalists in the congregation. It's about all of us, combining our talents, our capabilities, coming together to create the Earth community that we envision right here in our congregational home. Let's start talking about it. Let's seize the moment, and let us take action now. Blessed be.